Well, the Nationals have declared they'll oppose an Indigenous voice to Parliament, arguing the advisory body won't close the gap. Joining me now live is National Senator Matt Canavan. Thank you for joining us. Is the party damaging the movement for a voice, particularly for those who do want to see this get over the line?
Well, I think it's important we actually have a debate before we change our constitution. Our constitution has been one of the great democratic governments, great democratic documents that exists around the world. We've got a very stable democracy of over 100 years, one of the oldest democracies, continuing democracies, and so we shouldn't tamper with it without a proper debate. So I think it's a positive thing that we now have a debate, that this change won't just be rubber stamped. There are, I believe, a lot of risks of creating a separate race-based representative body in our constitution. I believe, as the Nationals do, that we should unite as a country, that what unites us is more than what divides us. And yes, we need to make sure we support and help those that are vulnerable and disadvantaged in our community, including Indigenous Australians. But I don't think we need to divide lines by race among us to achieve that. OK, so what's the alternative then to closing the gap? Well, I very much believe we've got to give more power down to local communities. I don't think Indigenous disadvantage will be fixed from a room in Canberra. I mean, let's be very clear what The Voice is about. For most people, it's a reality TV show, but for this proposal, The Voice is about thousands of more bureaucrats here in Canberra. Some of them will be the so-called elected officials, and they will think that from here they will fix up the issues in Wadeye, in Arakoon, in Warrabinda. That's just not going to happen. We've seen that fail time and time again. What we believe on the Conservative side of politics is the way you help communities is to empower those communities, support those communities, help them have the resources they need to grow and develop, but give power and strength to them. And we still have the ludicrous situation where we've given land rights to many Aboriginal communities, but they don't have the right to develop their own land. They don't have the right to take loans against that land, to invest in for-profit businesses in that land. And so we do get a lot of wasteful spending. We get mini bureaucracies created through rural and regional parts of our country, and we don't get the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that you absolutely need to develop our country. So what I'd like to see is a voice, not just a voice given to those local communities, but power given to those local communities to take charge of their own economic circumstances. That's the only way we will sustainably close the gap over time.
All right, let's move on now to the energy crisis. Labor is looking at a targeted relief package, so temporary direct subsidies for some struggling households and businesses. Do you support this?
Well, let's wait and see the detail, but this completely goes against the Labor Party's budget handed down just over a month ago. Just over a month ago, the Treasurer said that he rejected an approach to hand out more cost of living relief to households because he said that would just fuel inflation. In fact, his speech to the press club said that Treasury analysis said that handing out money to households would increase inflation by 0.5 percentage point. And so it seems like now we have a situation that the Labor government is arguing against their own budget released just a month ago. Their own budget said this was not the way to go. And that budget was such a flop. It was one of the worst received budgets in our nation's history, that they have just within a month completely dumped it and changed tack and said, actually, we will hand out billions of dollars to Australian households. So we need to see how that won't add to inflation, because if it's just robbing Peter to pay Paul, it's not going to help Australian households. It's not going to help Australian families. What we really need to see from this government is a plan to increase supply. The supply of energy. That's the only way we'll get prices down long term. And when I asked yesterday, I asked in 2 different committees in economics and environment and communications, what is the government doing to increase the supply of gas? There was no response. It was crickets. There's name one policy that they have got behind to increase the supply of gas, which all the experts, the Treasury Secretary yesterday, the Governor of the Reserve Bank said yesterday, is what is the problem with our energy markets right now.
And just finally, do you agree with the censure motion against former Prime Minister Scott Morrison?
No, I don't. I think this is the unfortunate Americanisation of our politics. Anthony Albanese has time and again shown himself to be a poor man's Joe Biden. He's trying to bring some kind of impeachment process here to our parliament. It's out of whack and out of step. This has never happened before in Australia. It happens now almost as a matter of course in the US. So let's not repeat that here. Everybody has concluded that what Scott did was not right. Everybody supports the recommendations that have come out of this inquiry. Using something like a censure motion, unprecedented for something like this, that cheapens the measure that is a censure. And as I said, it could just lead to a tit-for-tat process where we have these kind of debates after every election. I think the Australian people want their government to get on with the job of tackling inflation, tackling the fact that they're struggling to buy Christmas presents for their kids this year. Arguing about what job Scott Morrison had years ago helps nothing for people's Christmases right now.
Matt Canavan, we have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much, Danica.